And I remember like kind of approaching him with mutton chops, just kind of like, let's do something like simple, like we just got to get good costumes. We have the location, but let's keep it simple, because like if we can make something simple, then we can like elaborate the hell out of it. And when you have to compromise an elaborate idea, that elaborate idea gets watered down. So I think it's probably more effective to come up with like simple things, because if they're simple enough, when you're on set making them, then you can elaborate on them. And then when you're in post-production, you can elaborate on them further. And so then you end up making something small bigger, rather than something big smaller. Hello. Cheers. Ugh. So what's up? Anybody got questions? Don't smoke. What happened to the place you were using? Let's see. Oh yeah, so the place we used to film most of the let's say, I guess all of the shorts and stuff. Not the Land of Water, but that's a little place called Vasquez Rocks. It's a national park, and yeah, it's been raining nonstop since January here in LA. So everything's been green. It looks like Scotland, and I went back for like location scouting to see if it was filmable, because we're gonna do a photo shoot with this photographer, and we originally thought, let's go back to Vasquez Rocks, and when I went, it looked like Teletubby Land. It's just too green. Oh, so we did a little test, like I took pictures, and then Chase did a test to make it look dead, and excuse me. What happens when you have a beard is you get hair in your mouth. So we're thinking, like, since it's too green in the plain old nature park, there's a location kind of far out into the Mojave Desert that's like a junkyard, and so there's like a refrigerator and like a bunch of old cars and all this junk kind of laying around. And we made friends. It's like a part of a small town, and we made friends with like the mayor of the town. And I called him, and I was like, hey, is it green out there? Like everywhere else in California right now? And he's like, yeah, it's all blossoming. So I thought, well, we can make the plants look dead, but as long as there's like random kind of junk laying around, that might help the really push the post-apocalyptic vibe, you know, for the photo shoot we're going to have. But yeah, so we had to kind of do a little bit of a workaround. Let's see. Wait, what's this? Here we go. Have you thought about using that? Yeah. So we thought, like, if it's green, if there's going to be plant life, at least if there's junk in there and we make the plants look dead, that'll be post-apocalyptic enough, you know? But I'm kind of going into a new phase right now. Like, right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm working on, like, laying out, like, a pitch Bible sort of page spread of mutton chops, and we're going to try and do the shopping around town kind of thing, you know? Go to different streaming services, see if we can get a full budget, you know? We're going to try that out. We'll see what happens, you know? Fingers crossed. But for now, we have a bonus episode waiting to be finished after we're done with the madness thing. But, you know, we'll see how it goes. Let's see. Would you ever... Oh! Would you ever give mutton chops a more gritty storytelling? What do you mean by gritty? I'm curious. Like, do you mean like a darker story? Like more intense than silly? I mean, I feel like they suffer quite a bit. There's always a sense of humor to it, though. Are you saying like something more serious? Because I mean, yeah, we do have a couple ideas in mind. That's one of the things we'd like to do is, if we get a budget and like explore different ideas in this like universe. One of the things is like, you know, when you have so many stories and You want to fully explore the characters. You want to like have ups and downs, lefts and rights, you know, kind of fully explore them. So normal. So the default of the show is silly. It's a survival comedy, but then I feel like the drama could come more out of character stuff, you know, relationships. Well, you'll see. Yeah, no, they would definitely want to explore all kinds of tones for sure, as much as possible. I mean, we kind of like what we felt with Mutton Chops is we kind of like stumbled into this great big playground of possibilities, and that's why I think like it'd be a good show, because like an apocalyptic scenario with this tone and this kind of like perspective, you just have so much fun with it. Fun can also mean like interesting dramatic explorations. We have many ideas. It's just a matter of money, you know? Like we don't have the money to do them right now. I kind of budgeted the whole series. Yeah, no, we want to do like, so I kind of want like this series to feel like Tales of the Wasteland, you know, like kind of grim fairy tales. Oh, I see, anthologies, as in like different characters. You know what's funny is the more I'm writing the episodes for Mutton Chops for the series, the hypothetical like streaming service series, the more I'm realizing like Mutton Chops should be like almost the background element to another story. So it's like there might be a new character, and the story is revolving around the new character that we're meeting, and Mutton Chops are just like a participant in it, you know? Does that make sense? So it's like not about Mutton Chops each and every time. It's more about these people they meet, and they're kind of just like a supporting element to it in most of the stories. Occasionally, we're kind of exploring like, okay, well, like it's almost like, okay, well, they're meeting all these people, but like what? Like we challenge like, what are these guys about on this front, and what are these guys about in this front? So like we'll pepper in little character arcs for them, but it's really like each story is more about what they're running into, which keeps it on that more kind of anthology level, like where each episode has its own story. There's like elements that carry out, but like you could pop in an episode and just enjoy that story. Like making Mutton Chops live through both silly experiences and grim and mind-bending experiences. Yeah, well, for sure. It's kind of the thing where you can't, with such a dark setting, you can't not get dark, you know? Like, it's gonna get dark. I mean, I even think that Land of Water got pretty dark, where it's like, yeah, it's dudes floating head in the sky, but, like, they're dying of starvation. Like, it's pretty grim. And like, Mutt is trying to kill his friend. Like, it's pretty dark. Digestible dark, though, you know? It's not like, I want you to go and kill yourself after this dark because you've lost faith in everything, you know? It's not, I don't think it's ever going to get that dark. Like, it's not going to get, like, Requiem for a Dream dark or like, you know what I mean? Like, I want it to stay pretty, like, digestible and light. Yeah, exactly. They're dragging a corpse for days. Like, that's pretty fucking dark, man. Exactly. Like, Mutton Chops are a constant tie, a catalyst for the story. Yeah, it's like, it's called Mutton Chops because it's like through their perspective or through like their angle, but each story can be about a very different thing because of the situations or people they run into. Let's see. Have you ever seen the Nuka Break? And it reminds me a lot of it. Part of why I love it. You know what? I think... Is that I think it's like an indie comedy, right? That's like based on Fallout that was made. It must have been made like in what, 2009 or 10? Because I remember seeing it when it first came out, and I really liked it. Yeah, I remember. I remember liking it, but like, I mean, I can see I was probably 19 or 20 when I saw it, and I had my opinions about it. Not that it's bad. It's just like I remember for a long time. Wanting to do like a Fallout thing, you know, and I thought like their approach to it was almost more like almost okay. What it felt like was almost like what Austin Powers is to James Bond. That's what they were doing to Fallout. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like farcical and like a parody, you know. But I guess at the time I had my own vision of like oh, Fallout movie, you know, like what would that look like, you know? So I remember like feeling like that was cool, but like, man, I would have done this, you know? And you know, but I remember it was like really well done. And man, I haven't seen it since it came out. I guess like almost 10 years ago. Jesus. But I could have sworn it was shot probably in similar locations that we shot Mutton Chops. I mean, I'm guessing, but yeah, I Love Lucy. You're saying that Mutton Chops reminds you of old skits? Like I Love Lucy? Because we definitely are pulling from like the classics. Like, oh, I see. That's cool. Yeah, no. Well, I'll be honest. Like, I think I wouldn't be surprised if that Nuka Break was shot in like a location either near or in the same spot we shot stuff. Because if they were LA people, like, and you go, well, we needed like a apocalyptic desert. Like, there's certain key points I think you can go to shoot, but. Yeah, no, we're definitely pulling from the classics when it comes to making Mutton Chops. Like, that was kind of like my approach to this. So I'd been wanting to work with the director Chase since we were like 16. You know, we made friends on Newgrounds, and he's been in the film business since a very young age because he's LA based and stuff. And I remember like kind of approaching him with Mutton Chops, just kind of like, let's do something like simple, like we just got to get good costumes. We have the location, but let's keep it simple. Because like if we can make something simple, then we can like elaborate the hell out of it, you know. Rather than so, I feel like for independent filmmakers out there. Oh, I'll tell you in a second what it was like to film out there. I have some funny stories. One of them is actually related to the bonus episode that's coming out. But I remember feeling like. This is a little bit of advice for like young filmmakers out there, and kind of people who are just like, let me take a crack at it. Instead of like coming up with an elaborate idea, and then going and as a first, you know, or an early attempt, I think it's better to come up like attack something that's simple, because what you find out really quickly when you're filming is like you have your vision in your head, but there's some practical, like, real-life elements that get in the way, and you end up having to compromise a lot, you know? And when you have to compromise an elaborate idea, that elaborate idea gets watered down. So I think it's probably more effective to come up with, like, simple things, because if they're simple enough, when you're on set making them, then you can elaborate on them, and then when you're in post-production, you can elaborate on them further. And so then you end up making something small bigger rather than something big smaller, you know. And it probably just I think it's like good for the soul for the creative soul as far as like filming goes, to like the feeling you get. Like we came up with a simple idea, and then like when we're editing it and all the color correction and all the stuff's coming in, we're like, holy crap, this is bigger than we thought it was going to be. Like we made it bigger, you know. And that's just like, it like fills you up with like, come on, let's keep going, you know, like with the motivation and shit that you need. So I really recommend people to kind of think small and then make big, you know. So that's kind of my advice on that. You know, let me close my window because I don't know if I'm getting too loud. No, it's only 8:00. But what's it called? Filming out in the desert was pretty crazy, especially for me and Chops. Like I had a turtleneck, a vest, a fur cape, itchy wool 1940s war pants with boots up to my knees, you know, and a hat, and a very hairy face. Chops had a long sleeve red shirt that went all the way up to his thumbs, and a giant raincoat, rain boots, and like military pants too, and a freaking leather cap and a backpack. So like we were like pretty layered out in the desert. But to be honest, like all the feelings of like heat and weight and all that shit, I think it ended up like feeding into the performance, because like basically like we didn't have to put effort to seeming tired and hot, you know. And then all of our, that was always the baseline of our performance, which is the baseline of the characters. So it's made that part of it automatic, Like if we were in a green screen acting, we'd have to channel in the breaths, the heat, the sweat, we'd probably have to put on fake sweat, Like if you're in a vacuum, you have to create those feelings on your own, But if you're out in the elements, those elements bake into your performance, so I think it just made it all more authentic, But the bonus episodes coming out, we actually went to Death Valley, the Death Valley Dunes, and so it's all set in the dunes. I'm not going to spoil anything, but that's all you have to know. But I remember it was really cool to shoot out in the dunes because one of the things we learned was like, oh shit, we can't leave footprints, If we have like a really wide shot of us walking in the dunes, and then we have to go in there for the close-ups, and then we have to go out for some coverage stuff, The director had to like think, like jump in our footsteps and stuff. But there was like, I remember we were getting like maybe like 4 to 6 different angles of like one setup, and so that everything would be consistent, and we wouldn't have extra footprints and stuff. There's like a point where Mutt, like my character, like drops all tired, and so we had to get different angles of Mutt on the ground, like laying down, saying his line, and then getting the different coverage of that. And so basically for like a 45 minutes straight, I was just like lying on this. So imagine there's like a sand dune like this, right? And I was lying on a sand dune on a slope like this, and the sun was like directly at the angle. So I was literally just cooking for 45 minutes. And I remember like feeling my heart starting to like, and then in my head I was like, no, the desert's just trying to get to you, man. I was like, oh god, am I gonna have a heart attack? I was like, no, the desert's just playing tricks on you, man. And so I had like hit this zen moment of like meditation, just like staying in character, staying in position, so that the director would get in focus and stuff, and get all the shots. It was really funny. Let's see. But yeah. Oh wait, let's see. Do I have any more questions? Oh, yes. Someone said Mutton Chops could have almost been a Hanna-Barbera show. For sure. That's how we approached it. Like the first concept, like the first idea when it first came about, I told Chase, the director, like, imagine if you're scrolling through Twitter, right? I was like, let's do like a video version. Hey, get out of here, fly. Let's do like a video version of a comic strip, like Sunday Comics, And I was like, what's the newspaper of today? Twitter, So people are scrolling through or flipping pages. And so it's like, imagine if you're scrolling and then you like run into like a little video clip of like Mutton Chops. And like, so as long as people kind of know the context of the world, it's sort of like when they pop up, it's like, what are these guys up to? Oh, they're trying to find food, or they're trying to find water, or they're whatever, So I wanted to approach it almost like a Sunday comic, but video form, That's why I also was very like bold and simple with the color palette. It's like green sky, yellow ground, red characters, Like let's keep it simple, I say a lot, by the way, if you haven't noticed it. But so it might as well be a cartoon. It's like it might as well be, but I felt like making it live action heightens it more. And also I kind of like I miss larger than life performances in movies. Like I feel like a lot of comedy, especially in movies, I'm not saying like on the internet because you get all kinds of stuff on the internet, but like in movies and stuff, you get a lot of like improv, dry kind of verbal comedy, but I missed a lot of that like visual, bold, larger than life characters comedy. But I kind of missed the rehearsed, performed, clear idea, clear execution, like circus show kind of comedy, Any plans to bring more NG guest actors? I love Tomar's character. Actually, yes, I do. I have a whole array of characters already drawn, designed, and planned out with some of my friends from Newgrounds, among others, But yeah, definitely. Okay, one of the fun things about Mutton Chops was like with me and Carlos, who plays Chops. One of the angles we approached it at, like I guess, was let's just kind of like play an exaggerated version of ourselves, because me and him have like a certain chemistry and friendship in real life, and then we were like, well, let's make our jobs easier and just like play that up, you know. And Carlos like kind of like Carlos and I have a certain kind of chemistry, you know, like a certain like I'm very assertive and you know, like I get my, you know, I get like neurotic and stuff, and he's very like kind of like the happy-go-lucky guy, and there was just, I was like, how about we just play that up? It'll just be easier, you know, like we don't have to like think about the characters that much, you know, like there's certain things we think about, you know, obviously, like would Mutt do that, would Chops do that, you know, that sort of thing. But I was like, let's just like kind of, we already got some interesting chemistry, and then let's play it up. And then we actually ended up realizing like the way me and him are very much like a classic duo. There's a lot of duos like this throughout history. It's not like we're tapping into something new. It's just our own version of like what seems to be this like instinctual tradition that kind of, you know, you got like Dr. Frankenstein and Igor, you got Sherlock Holmes and Watson, you got Captain Hook and Mr. Smee, you know, like you can keep naming a bunch, man, you know. But like it seemed like, well, this thing we got going seems to be existing already, or it's been existing throughout time. Like, so that to me was proof enough that we might be onto something. Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, you know, absolutely. So what was I talking about? So we kind of wanted to continue that, you know, that idea of like, let's play ourselves. And when we created the character of Do, I had Tomar in mind. And Tomar usually plays like when he voice acts these big characters, you know. And in real life, he's like this super chill dude, you know. It's like, and I kind of wanted, like, I remember telling Tomar like you are a character in real life, you know. Like I want to make that a character, and I thought like it'd be cool, like to just continue what me and Carlos did with Mutton Chops, and like, hey Tomar, basically just play you know, because then it takes a load off, you know. You just kind of show up on set, and if like the costume like brings out that character and he brings out himself, you know, it just makes it easier and then also more authentic. So it's kind of like two birds with one stone. So I don't know. I think that's what makes it fun too. It's like, it's not like a place you have to keep going to. It's just like a switch you can flip on. All right, rolling. Okay, you know. It just comes out more naturally, so. But yeah, we have like, well, I won't say much, but like I do have like a character for Lyle that I'm really excited for, yeah. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean Lyle Wrath, Lyle now known as Wrath. But yeah. Any more questions? See a lot of it. A lot is too real sometimes. The vaudevillian energy, is great. Almost too real. So wait. Well, whoops. Hold on. I'm trying to read these questions. When you say a lot is too real sometimes, what do you mean by that? Cliff. What's his name? Cliff Sand. What's too real? Lyle also, like, he just, the way the guy looks, like he's this tall guy, dark sunken eyes, like I just feel like I look at him and I'm like, you belong in like that universe. Like you need to be in there. He's quite the character, that guy. Yeah, what did you? I don't know if he's still is. Are you still in the chat? Oh yeah, let's see. Awesome, just comedy these days. Oh, the comedy is too real. Yeah, I get. That's what I mean by like I miss the larger than life stuff. Like even like Chris Farley and Jim Carrey and you know all that shit. You know, I love that. I love that crap. Like even Austin Powers with Mike Myers. I do love Austin Powers. Or or Dumb and Dumber. You know. Yeah, I like those. I like that shit. Like, why not? Let's just go there. Well, you know what? On a personal note, I'm a very loud and expressive person, and I will tell you this, that like there was this amazing sense of relief that when we're out there in the middle of nowhere, you know, like I could completely project. And, like, I wouldn't bother neighbors. I wouldn't see anybody. Nobody would be watching. And, you know, I just felt completely free out there in the desert. Like, when we were acting, I was, like, in my element. I was like, the world doesn't fucking matter right now. It's just about the performance and the shot, you know? And, like, is the you know? So it's like overshooting the performance, you know? Ended up, like, you know, and then I was editing it. And I was like, oh, wow. When I was editing it, I was like, I thought I was being really big, but, like, I guess maybe when it's like when everything's strung together, it didn't feel quite as big as I thought it was when I was expressing it, you know? It's hard to say. I don't know. It's like if the camera makes you gain 10 pounds, you know? It's like the camera also compresses your performance. Like a gesture you might have thought was too much, especially depending on the composition, right? It depends on the composition. But like you know, if you're in a really tight close-up, like the subtleties matter, you know? But when, you know, with certain wide shots, medium shots, or the way certain sequences were strung together, like, that big performance didn't feel as big as I thought it was. Or maybe it's because, like, the whole thing is big. It, like, ends up kind of balancing out the energy, you know? Maybe that's what it is. But I just felt really free out there, man. Like, I was like, oh, it was great. Like, little things, like, I could, like I wasn't worried about cracking my voice or you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, just being out there and, like, no boundaries. It was really cool, man. I felt really free. Let me see. Were there any restrictions with you filming where you did or did you most have free range legal-wise? Oh, I see. Well, it was, we definitely, like, we didn't have any, we did a guerrilla style, you know? If anyone doesn't know what that means, guerrilla style filmmaking is like when you go without permits and, you know, and stuff like that. But we chose places that were like in the middle of nowhere. And I remember, like, we had a funny experience where we were shooting, remember in Land of Water when we're inside the empty, dry, like, vat, you know, like the tank, you know, in the beginning when I'm like with the binoculars and I'm telling Chops not to drink that thing. Like, that was like this empty thing in this, like, mountain of, like, it was like a junkyard. A hiking trail went through a junkyard that went up to a mountain that had, like, that empty vat in there. And you had to crawl through this, like, perfectly, like, just big enough hole to get inside to that location. And we were, like, shooting in there. And then eventually went down to the nearby town. And we were talking to this guy who was the self-proclaimed mayor of the town. It's like a town of, like, maybe 50 people out in the middle of the desert. Super cool guy. And then we asked him, hey, we were, after we made friends with him, I was like, hey, we were shooting up there. Is that allowed? And he said, I mean, I strongly suggest you don't go up there. And with a big smile, you know, like, he was like, whatever. Like, he was like, go ahead. Just, I can't say that I allowed you, you know? I will not say that I'm allowing you to. But people hike there all the time. So it was just kind of like, okay, you know? I remember there was one funny memory. So we were shooting on these, what I thought were abandoned railroad tracks for Land of Water. And throughout the 2.5 days of shooting on those tracks, we were never bothered by trains. And then there was, like, we were kind of preparing one of the last shots, and we had Dew's corpse in a potato sack sitting on the tracks with, like, under the track, like, kind of below view. There was, like, the storyboards and all this stuff and a camera. And we were preparing a shot, and then all of a sudden we hear, like, bam, bam, like, and I turned and, like, just over, because there was, like, it was like a little slope. I guess the slope was deep enough to, like, hide the train that was coming in, but it was coming over the slope, and I was like, oh shit. And I look at Chase, I look at Carlos, and they're just paralyzed. And I look at the stuff on the tracks, and I'm like, is nobody gonna? And then I run and I just grab the body bag, throw it, grab the camera and the whatever, and I just I pull it off the tracks as this thing drives by, and I'm like, holy shit. It was so funny, man. It was so funny. And like by the time I got all the shit out, Chase and Carlos were like, oh my god. I was like, I think I can't remember if I was in my underwear because we were preparing the running shot. I think I was in my underwear. Oh god. You know, we're running in our underwear or whatever. Oh god, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, you gotta put yourself out there for your art, you know? What at all costs. Yeah. What other kind of questions you guys got for me, huh? How did I approach Tomar for the role? Let's see. I'm trying to remember, actually. Because I can't remember. I think so. We started shooting the intro and we started releasing the episodes. And while we were shooting and editing the episodes, I was writing Land of Water. And when I was writing Land of Water, I had Tomar in mind. But I guess that'd be a better question for Tomar, because from what I remember, I basically was like, "Do you want to play like a wandering mystic hippie dude?" You know. And then he was like, "Sure, man." For sure, man. It was funny, man. I wrote the Land of Water script with Rod, El Cid, and it was just funny to write the lines and then think of Tomar and make it it was like, it's so helpful to hear the voice of the actor in your head when you're writing the script. It's so helpful, you know. Like you could do without it, but it's just like, what would he say, or what would be funny, coming out of his mouth, you know. Let's see. How long does a typical episode take to storyboard? Did you keep within a certain time limit? You know what's funny is we almost kind of storyboard all at once. And the approach to the shorts that built up to Land of Water, were I drew a comic strip, and then it was like, okay, that's a good one, and then that basically became the storyboard and the shot list. So they all kind of happened at once. The thing about Munch Ups that was cool is when we came up with the idea, all of the ideas, everything came out flowing, everything flowed out naturally. I was like, oh, of course, this, and what if they're doing this, and this would happen, and da-da-da-da. It just kind of flowed out. And then Land of Water, I guess we were writing that throughout the production and post-production of the shorts, because I don't know if you remember, but we were releasing them every 2 weeks. So let's see, 5 times 2, so in 10 weeks. We wrote, and in the 10 weeks we were shooting and editing and releasing the shorts. In those 10 weeks, I was also tucking in the production, the pre-production of Land of Water. So I think that ended up being maybe 4 or 5 drafts of the Land of Water script, and that was Land of Water was the one we actually wrote a script for. All the shorts, the other ones, they didn't need a script. It was just a storyboard, a comic strip. What do you do to come up with the costumes? The costumes, it's more of an instinct. I remember the first draft, the first time I was talking about our characters with Carlos, because me and Carlos came up with the idea of our characters. It was funny. Me and Carlos were Carl said, I'd like to act with you in something. Me and you being, 2 main characters for something. And I was like, okay. Because, he'd been my friend since college, and he always wanted to act with me in something. And we hadn't done so up until this point. So kind of back to what I was saying is, okay, well, let's just be ourselves, okay? Because, I feel like we had some good chemistry. And I remember thinking, should we just be, maybe we could shoot, a short about us in a bar, and we get into a bar fight because it'd be fun to do stunts and stuff. And then he was like, what if it's set in the apocalypse? And I was like, and then immediately I was like, what if we're snake oil salesmen? Oh, what if we're surviving? And what if it's this kind of duo or whatever? And then, snake oil salesman was a key thing, because then I started kind of talking about maybe I can have a top hat and a tailcoat, and I'm all this fancy asshole dude. I started thinking of, do you guys ever see that 1970s movie Pete's Dragon, the Disney one? There's these two characters. They're like snake oil salesmen in that, like, and they like come into Passamaquoddy or whatever. And I was like, what if we play characters like that but in the apocalypse? So it's like snake oil salesman in the apocalypse. For some reason, I just thought that would work. And maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's because like I was projecting my own feeling of like it's hard to survive in LA, like the apocalypse, and we're trying to convince people that we're worth it, you know, or like our talents are worth it, you know. And it's like that salesman part of us, but then like it's the apocalypse. So the dark side of that is like they're selling like bullshit oil, snake oil, and you know, they're just kind of conning their way through survival, you know. I also like the idea of us being kind of like the vagabond losers who always get the short end of the stick. Yeah, totally child abuse in Pete's Dragon. But I just love those characters. And then when I showed Carlos that movie, or like that scene of them selling to people, he was like, dude, we could totally do that. And so that was the whole theme throughout this, is like, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Okay, can we do apocalypse? Oh, yeah, we can. We live in LA. We're in a drought. Oh, there's locations everywhere. Now, what do we do for costumes? Oh, like, my mom works at a thrift store, so I got a lot of stuff out of the costumes, like, pretty cheaply. And I was like, okay, well, I can make the costumes. I just got to get, like, the right pieces and then, like, fuck them up, you know, like, rip them up and make them look all gritty and textured, you know? And then it's like, okay, and then if we're out in the desert, how do we make it look apocalyptic? Okay, what if the sky is green because it's toxic? That'll be a constant reminder that the world is not the world as you know it is gone. It's now this like poisonous place, you know? So it's like, I was like, okay, we can do this. And then like I talked to Chase, who not only is a good director and writer, but he's like a special effects guy. And I was like, are these effects like possible? Like, can we make the sky green? Is that going to be a problem? He's like, no, dude, I know exactly how we can do this. And I was like, okay. So like every idea we had is like, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? And then at some point we're like, we can totally do this. And then I started adding up the numbers and stuff. And I was like, I've been saving up for a while. I'm down to put some of my savings into this, you know? As long as we keep it in this budget and as long as we scale it to this goal, like, this is possible. It's like, holy shit, dude. We can have our own little micro web series, sort of proof of concept. And then we'll see where we go. And that's where we're at now. It's like we made it. And then now that we have it made, like, let's see if anyone out there is interested to, you know? So we're in that pitch process right now, and having meetings and, you know, networking and trying to figure out like options and possibilities and tailoring the pitch Bible and all that shit. So yeah, it's been pretty cool. We went to some film festival, a film festival. Sorry, I'm not trying to gloat here, and be honest. And we've been accepted into one film festival, which is really cool. Very big learning experience for me because I'd only done one film festival before, but it was kind of like not completely my project, you know? I had worked on it. I was a director on it, but I was given a script, so yeah. And then honestly, I was always, since I was a kid, like a big fan of Captain Hook. And there's definitely the cartoon Disney Captain Hook, you know? And like Mutt is, you could see that there. Like he's always in peril, and like it's just funny to watch him suffer. Like I wanted to play a character like that since I was a kid. Like it's just entertaining to watch this guy suffer, you know? Yeah, no, I mean we too. We're doing everything we can to try and continue the series, but you know, we're limited. You know, it's like it took a lot out of me to make it. You know, in every at every level, physically, financially, time, all that. Took a lot out of Chase, took a lot out of Carlos. Are there any more plans for longer episodes down the line? Yes. I have, just so you know, like, outlined, like, close to 20 episodes now. They're, like, at least Land of Water length, if not more, you know? So we like, Mutton Chops is like, at least in my head, of a series, you know? It's just a matter of getting it made, you know? So we're just going through that process. And yeah. There are some episodes that I'm so freaking excited to make, man. I really can't wait. But and we want to get all kinds of people involved. Just to have like a good way of putting it is kind of like I want to almost like pitch my own circus tent and like have all kinds of crazy stories and scenarios to just have fun with, you know? Like this, it's just this kind of like dark, kooky circus, you know, in the wasteland. One of the things I'd like to do is, I know there's like that Wasteland Weekend thing. Like I thought it'd be cool to go there as Mutton Chops, you know, in costume or something. And then like I think they show movies there. Maybe like get in contact with the guy who's in charge of the projector room or something, and like play like some Mutton Chops at Wasteland Weekend while everybody's like dressed in costumes and shit. Because like I want to get those people together, and like it's like imagine getting a budget for a show, and it's like all right, let's design all these costumes and these like little set pieces and stuff, and because it's set in the apocalypse, like even though it's a fantasy, it doesn't have to be an expensive fantasy. It's like because everything's destroyed, like you can be very minimalistic with it. So it's like you kind of put all the budget and effort in the right places, right? Like so like a set could literally be one little broken chunk, and the rest of it's like a digital matte painting, you know, and then like a couple of good costumes, you know. Yeah, man, I'm really excited about it. I mean, it's one of many ideas I have, but this seems to be the most fertile. Yeah, no, and we could reach a larger audience, and like not only that, it'd be a critical audience. Like I feel like anybody who likes post-apocalyptic shit will like Mutton Chops, you know, because you know we got Mad Max, we got Fallout, but there's nothing quite. I think like I feel what I like about Mad Max is it hits that like heavy metal, especially with like it's a very vehicle-driven post-apocalyptic world, so it's like cars, heavy metal, you know. Action, you know, and then with Fallout you have this sort of like space age or like 1950s like futurist dystopia kind of dark but dry comedy, you know, elements, but still with this sort of like epic tone. And then like Mutton Chops is like in this roster of, at least for me, what I know of apocalyptic scenario stories, it's like more of this like vaudevillian, grim fairy tales, vagabond bohemian kind of thing. So it's like, yes, it is like Fallout and it is like Mad Max, but it's like putting on its own little spin to it, which I think is pretty cool. And then Mutton Chops, I would say, is, at least for me, is like I wanted to play more like medieval fairy tales, because like one little rule, like world rule that I put in my head is like there's really never going to be guns, you know? And that, okay, that's one thing that Fallout has. It's very like techie, you know? Like there's like plasma blasters and robots and, you know, and all this technology that's still kind of around. And Mutton Chops, the idea with it is like all that stuff is rusted, you know? So if there is a gun, it's going to be like incredibly rare, and people will think it's magic, you know? And it's very much like medieval times logic, you know, the Dark Ages, you know? But it's even, like, I know Mad Max is kind of like that, but even Mad Max still has like pumping motors and vehicles, but like I'm saying everything is rusted. Like it's just like sticks and stones, you know, with Mutton Chops. For the most part. So I feel like that's like a kind of way of framing it, you know. It's like this is the new medieval Dark Ages. Yeah. Like if you think about the Dark Ages in the medieval times, I like history, so if you think about it, they were all living in the ruins of the Roman Empire, and like there was all these roads built and bridges and stuff, and they were like, they didn't even know how they got there. They're just like, well, it was always there. It's always been there. And it's like there was once this like Roman Empire that everyone in the medieval ages was living in the ruins of, you know? And so there's lots of like raping and pillaging and like Vikings and barbarians kind of like hassling these villages, which is like raiders and, you know, in towns and stuff in the apocalypse. It's like, it's that kind of logic, like that kind of world, you know? What's the deal with the dead robots? Ooh. Oh, I'd love to tell you about that. But I can't, because that is a big kind of story spoiler reveal. We got a lot of little surprises. Like, in store, and I can't tell you about it. You just gotta sit there and wonder and theorize why they're there, how they got there, what they're about. But I did want to put a little hint as to the backstory. Yeah. I'd love to tell you, but I can't. Spoilers! There is definitely lore. Lots of lore. And actually, I don't know if you guys saw this piece of art that amazingly talented guy named Lauren Colt made for Mutton Chops. Let's see if I can probably pull it up here. This thing? Let me see. You guys seen that? Lauren Colt drew that. He's this great artist. Anyway, I've been talking a lot with him because he's helping me. He's going to help me like illustrate the Pitch Bible stuff, and that's going to be a part of the cover of the Pitch Bible. And but because I want, like, I told him, like, your art sensibility is like perfect for Mutton Chops as the kind of like aesthetic for the show. Even if it's live action, like I want it to have like the aesthetic sensibilities of a cartoon, you know? Like that's how like stylized I want it to be. So me and him have been talking a lot about the series, and so one of the cool things that I love about him is he plays a lot of D&D, and he's like the DM, like the dungeon master, and so he puts a lot of thought into the worlds and stuff that he builds for when they play D&D. And when I started working with him, he explained like my process of understanding different worlds and styles before I start drawing. I have this thing that I want to go through, and he would ask me all these questions and stuff. And so together we've been kind of chewing through the lore and like, ooh, and like finding how all this stuff kind of works and stuff. Because, I mean, if it's a fantasy, it's a fantasy comedy. Like the fantasy has to be good. Like the comedy's got to be good, but if it's a fantasy as well, like the fantasy's got to be good. And like what makes fantasy cool is like the lore, like the world, the richness of the environments and the settings and stuff. So me and him have been really kind of geeking out and like trying to come up with like cool stuff for the world, which a lot of it I'm really excited to show you when it comes out. But yeah. And I even told him, like, if this doesn't work out, if we don't get, like, a budget for a show, like, let's make a comic series. Like, let's do it. I feel like that'd be cool. What do you guys think? Would you like a comic series? Would you buy those issues? I thought it'd be cool to print issues. I think it'd be cool to print them and mail them, you know? Like, right? Like, flipping through it, you know? Like, especially, like, his style has, like, this nice texture, you know? Yeah? Do you guys like a comic series? Worst case scenario? Well, in an ideal scenario, I would get, like, the series, like, the live action series made, and then we could have comics based on other characters, you know, like, parallel, you know? So it's like you can watch the show and then, like, read up on other characters' stories and stuff. So the comic I would think would be called, like, let's say if the show is called Mutton Chops, the comic series would be called Apocalyptia or something like that. So then Apocalyptia would be about like all these other things, all these other characters and stories and things. They are live action cartoon characters after all. Yeah, they are. They're live action cartoon characters. And I think the reason why I like that it's live action, even though it plays like a cartoon, like I can imagine some people going like, well, why didn't you just animate it? And it's like two things. One, if I were to make it into a full-blown actual show that's animated, I feel like it would have to play like a Tom and Jerry or Wile E. Coyote. And there's a certain level of quality and polish and attention to detail that an animated show would need for it to fully express itself. And because, you know, animation is an industry, right? You know, you got to keep it cheap and cut corners and stuff. And like a physical comedy animated show that is animated stiff and like it's not punchy, or you don't have like the right amount of frames for certain physical gags or timing, you know, I could see it kind of just being kind of like put through a mill. But if you film it, right, and you see real people in these heightened scenarios, it kind of you get that enhancement feeling out of it. You know, like I feel like the show is enhanced by it being live action, real people doing big things. Like you get that enhancement, and that's the vaudeville, what I call it. It's like the larger than life. It's show business. It's big, you know. So whatever little scenario you're having, it's a big version of it, you know. Yeah, it's like one of the things. Okay, I know I talk about vaudeville and all the old stuff a lot, but one of the series that I have to say has inspired me a lot is Malcolm in the Middle, because that show is basically a cartoon. It's basically a cartoon, but it being performed and shot live action, it like enhances it. I think like it would be a lame cartoon, but it's a more enhanced live action show. Like if it was a cartoon, it'd be a lame cartoon, but being that it's live action, it's like it's an enhancement. You know, I like when things are enhanced. That's seems to be my impulse to like blow things like up, you know? Like if it's a little feeling you have, right? You read a story or you come up with an idea and you have like a feeling, like I like to highlight those feelings that they create. There's some stuff out there that are like that. Like I feel like Sam Raimi does that. Like he makes a horror, but it's this like enhanced horror, you know? Like it's kind of in your face. Like I would say that's even more exaggerated than Mutton Chops, even, you know. Like I know, being that it's horror and like horror is supposed to shock you, you know. So maybe because it's the horror genre, it doesn't feel like it's as bigger than something like Mutton Chops, because Mutton Chops, it's a comedy. So what I'm trying to say by that is like, in a horror, you're expected to be shocked, but you're not necessarily expected to be shocked in a comedy. Like there's all kinds of comedy, but horror should be like it should hit the gut, you know, like oh my god. So when Sam Raimi's over the topness is in a horror, it feels pretty straightforward, and I'm sure that there's some people out there that look at Mutton Chops and they find it annoying, you know, because they're like, that's not my kind of comedy, you know. Like, but even in like a horror that's like dry or more kind of cold, like a cold pacing, there's still like either jump scares or shocking things in it. That's the connective tissue amongst all genres of horror. Cuts to the core. Hey, Dex. If you want a little bit of insider information, Dex is in the upcoming bonus episode. But I won't say what, and I won't say why, and I won't say how he's in it. But yeah, Dex the Swede, guy who just joined the chat, he's in the episode. Sorry, I don't know. Oh, geez. Oh, God. That's some good wine. I like this wine, by the way. It's called Apothic Red. There's also an Apothic Dark. But it's like just the right amount of sweet and tangy, and it grabs your mouth. It's good. Me likey. But Malcolm in the Middle is a big inspiration for me, man. Like the energy of that show, like the heightened sense of reality in it is like so inspirational to me. Like I remember when I was a kid, I liked The Simpsons, and when The Simpsons started getting bad, or you know, like not it, or it just got like it's like it wasn't the same show. You know what I mean? Like that happens to any show that goes a long time. But I jumped onto Malcolm. I was like, oh, this is like, it has that spirit and that snappiness of The Simpsons. I think a lot of people say, oh, The Simpsons is bad. I think the most precise for me, to be precise about what I think people mean by bad, it's like, I think the biggest difference in The Simpsons was the pacing. The pacing got slower, you know? Like Simpsons used to have this like snappy, like boom, boom, boom pacing. And then it just got like slow. You know? And I don't know if it was like padding. I don't know if like the new writing staff was still getting used to writing a Simpsons story, and they were kind of like, they would only come up with like, let's say let's see, Osman. Hey, Osman. 1 mil, bro? 1 million what? But you know what? Do you guys agree with me? Like, the biggest difference between good Simpsons and bad Simpsons is, like, to me, the pacing. You know, it's like, there might be a lot of other reasons, but the most critical one, it's like, it just got slow. I loved how snappy they used to be. Oh, Barcelona was awesome. I actually grew up there when I was like 12 to 17 years old, and it was nice to go back to my hometown and see the streets and the people. It was nice. And it was cool to show Carlos my hometown. He had never been to Europe, so I was kind of like his tour guide there. So I'm kind of a mix. My mom is Mexican, Spanish, and then my dad's like a lot of things. But like my I have distant cousins in Spain, and I lived there when I was younger. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm bilingual. I grew up speaking English and Spanish. Tim and Eric is cool. It's just it's just part of this like new comedy where it's like, I don't want to sound snobby but I'm just trying to break it down into like termable words. But I would call it like, it's like post comedy or like self-aware meta post comedy. I don't know. It's like, it's super surrealist and abstract, and it's just more about the feeling. Like, I like their stuff, but like I can only watch so much of it until I'm like just emotionally exhausted. Because like you're kind of like thrown into a blender, you know, of nonsense, and I love nonsense, but like, whoa, you know, after a while I can only take so much. But I do love their shit. Xavier Renegade Angel, what's it called? Tim and Eric and Eric Andre. All their stuff is great. It's just like, I like come out of it like, what the fuck was that? It's like I can never quite get used to it, but it's always like a good little fun explosion. If there's any rhyme and reason, it's hard to pinpoint, you know? It's not accessible. and I think accessible gets a bad rap these days. Like, everyone's trying to be different, and then like, I'm not saying Tim and Eric is this, but then like, it's like, I don't know. I get maybe I'm a traditionalist, or maybe I just like the classics, you know. But I was trying to tap into the kind of the classics with Mutton Chops. Like, can we hit something that like no matter where you show it in the world, like people will get it, you know, like the gist, you know, and whether they like it or not is another thing, but they'll get it, you know. I wanted to see if I could do that. Because me and Rod were doing lots of weird, surrealist shit. I don't know if you remember, like Polka King of the Monhill and SpongeBob SquareWatch, and like we did a lot of weird shit, and I love doing that stuff. But like I was kind of trying to challenge myself, and I was thinking like, can I do like straightforward classic stuff? You know, like something that'll hit that nerve. Oh yeah, what was like some of your what was some of the earliest stuff you saw of mine? Like, I guess what I mean with Tim and Eric and the stuff I did with Rod, it's like I am totally for experimental shit. You know, like I think it's important for people to experiment because you learn a lot through that shit. You know, when you just like, okay, no boundaries, let's just go for straight for the kill. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense, it's as long as we get a laugh. But at some point, I kind of felt like, well, I don't want to just toss everything out the window. I want to see if I can, like, make something what I call solid. I want to see if I can make things that could, like, stand the test of time. Like, can you watch Mutton Chops, like, 10 years from now and it still, like, works? Well, we'll see, you know? We don't know until so much time goes by, but, let's see. I want to catch up to some of your guys' questions. When you say mainstream comedy, what do you mean? Because I'm curious by that, like what you mean by that. Because there's so many streams now that I don't know which one's the main one. That's one thing about today, man, is like it's really easy to make stuff. Like we have all this technology just around us. Like, I mean, even with your, we could have shot everything on Mutton Chops with our phone. Did we? There was one thing we shot with the phone, you know, for Mutton Chops. It was like a little promo teaser or whatever. But what I'm trying to say is like we have all this technology, and so you're starting to see everyone's creative voice. Before, in the old days, you had to like, there was one place to make movies, and it was Hollywood, and you had to go there, and you had to go through the process. But now that you have everybody, like, there's all kinds of shit everywhere. So I wonder what you mean by, like, mainstream, because there's, like, a mainstream on the internet, there's a mainstream on TV, there's a mainstream on streaming services. Like, it's all starting to kind of get blurry. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the overture was, like, the pilot episode for you, huh? Because, okay, actually there's a funny story on the overture. The overture, so one of the things I did with Mutt and Chops as the producer was I plotted out from the overture to Land of Water. I wove in our evolution of getting to know the characters into the production process. So I was like, okay, I think it'd be good to start make the intro, right? I think it'd be good to make that silent, the way like a lot of cartoon intros are silent, and you like get a good idea of what the world and characters are like in this sort of intro, without words, without speaking. You get the gist of the cartoon show before you jump in. That's why I think cartoon shows use intros, is because in cartoon shows, you're injected into weird worlds. In SpongeBob, you're underwater and you're a talking sponge and a starfish are friends. How do you wrap your mind around it? Well, every time the show starts, it puts you in the world. Tim Burton used that for his movies a lot, where his movies always started off with very specific intro sequences because they're like transporting you into that world and logic, you know? But one of the main reasons why I decided to make this intro to start off with and make it silent is because me and Carlos, by the time we were shooting it, we didn't know what our characters sounded like finding the voice in it. And I thought, well, if we make it silent, if we figure out how they move, if we figure that out first, we'll know what they sound like after. Like, it'll come naturally. So I decided it'd be cool to like set up the intro to be like, let's figure out how these characters move, and then by Egg Hunt, the first short, we'll know how they talk, you know? So we shot the whole intro in one day, and then we shot, I guess, the first half or most of the shorts in a second day, and then the third day we shot the rest of the shorts, and then the fourth day, shooting day, not in that order, but like on the fourth shoot day, we shot the beginning of Land of Water, and then the fifth day. I think we ended up spending only 6 to 7 days shooting everything. It was like 1 week of filming, like if you added all the days together. But that was like the idea of like baking our learning of the characters into the shoot days. Like, first shoot day, we don't got to worry about sound. We're just going to worry about visual performance. If we get that, we'll know what they're going to sound like. It'll come out naturally. Like, if it's like body first, voice follows, Yeah. So, like, in me kind of like as much like acting more paranoid or more, like finding it, I'm like, oh, I know how he's going to sound. Like, I know I'd have a better idea of what he's going to sound like. And wearing the costumes really helps you like move a certain way. It's really it's interesting, Like, yeah, it's you feel it. So once you get in the costume, you know how he moves. Once you know how he moves, you know how he talk. It's yeah. I don't know. I love this shit so much, and I'm just trying to figure out a way to keep doing it. That's my goal. Oh yeah, fun fact. Oh, how did Mutt meet Chops? I don't know if I should spoil, because we have a whole plan, but yeah, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm sorry, I can't. We have a whole plan. Like, like, I know the answer, but it's hinged on something that would be a spoiler, a major spoiler. Oh, one little fun fact about Mutt and Chops is you can go. You guys can. I can ruin it for you, I guess, but you guys can go watch, and every single sound in Mutton Chops was recreated in Foley with Foley in post. The voices, the footsteps, the crunches, the ruffles, the branch breaks, the everything was recreated because we didn't have a sound guy. So I can like recite each line almost perfectly because we had to like re-record everything. So if you go back and watch it, you'll like every single sound is recreated. And that's one thing I'll tell you for all you people out there interested in making films is like sound can make or break things. So you got to make sure you have good sound. And that was one mission I had. And I learned a lot about sound mixing and shit. Like you can have the prettiest looking thing, but if it sounds like crap, it's hard to watch. Like sound is so important to film. So important. Actually, even Chase, like, and working on this, he like, because I did all the sound mixing, and then me and Carlos did all the Foley together. Like, we went on hikes in the Burbank Hills, where there was nobody around, and like we'd watch the videos on our phone, like back to back, and like he'd put the microphone up and like act it all out again. Chase, the director, was like told me like because he's a very visual guy. He told me like, man, you really have like shown me like how important sound is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's so important, man. And because it also, what I also learned when I was sound mixing this thing is like, you can draw the attention of the audience with sound. You know, you could also draw people's attention away from certain things. You know. Because if you were to be literal minded about it and just like I'm gonna recreate, just put all the things that are going on in the screen, I'm just gonna recreate it, just literally like that character's walking right now. I will make the sounds of that. Everything on screen, I'm gonna record it, but then it gets too crowded, and then you have to design like what sound is dominant right now, and when you start to play with that, like you almost like that. Okay. Sound gives like the third dimension to the movie without being like actually a 3D movie. Like it gives it a third dimension, It's really interesting. I learned a lot about sound when working on Mutton Chops. I'd even like if you guys, I don't know if you any sound people out there, I'd recommend like get a scene from a movie, delete the sound and try to recreate it. It's kind of fun. And maybe put your own twist on it. Do I like being a jack of all trades? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. What do I mean by that is like when you're a jack of all trades, it's hard to kind of package yourself to sell. And when you're an artist, you have to learn how to sell yourself. That's the bitter truth about being an artist is as sentimental as you are with your work, like to be able to make a living doing what you love, you have to package it and sell it, So it's kind of hard to sell it. It's like right now I'm having meetings with managers, like talent managers, and they're like, some of them are just actor managers, and it's like, yeah, I'm an actor, but like I'm also all these other things, and it's like I'm trying to find like the right manager to represent me, So I don't know. It's a process of learning, I guess. Yeah, but the other thing about being an artist is like you have to make up your own career, there really is no set path. I mean, there's set path with crafts, like the craft of animation or the craft of painting or the craft of costume design. But when you're an artist, you kind of you're like a shotgun blast of things. It's more in the sensibilities, and then to sell that, you have to figure it out. You have to just assemble it yourself. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out how to do that, Aren't we all? Well, there's no rules, but you have to make your own rules. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't make your own rules, you're like fall apart, and you're aimless, And if you want to be effective, you can't be aimless. You got to hit the target. You just got to pick the target. Make your target. But yeah, it's been really fun, guys. Maybe I should do this more often. Should I do this more often? Should I? Give me hearts if you want me to do this more often. Yeah! Yeah, no, it'd be great if it succeeds. If not, I have many other ideas, you know? I have plenty of ideas. This is just the most, like I said, fertile one right now. So I'm just pouring everything I got into it. Oh, that's a lot of hearts. My tongue's purple because of the wine. So what, should I start stripping now? Is that how this works? You guys tip or something every time I show a nipple? You fuckers.